Attention all faculty, students, and staff. You are tuned in to another episode of Abbott After School, and we have so much to discuss. This is episode 13 of season 3, which was the Smith Playground episode. I was chuckling this entire episode. It was Abbott at its best. So let's get right into our homework. The recap of this episode. It builds on the Mother's Day episode, which y'all know wasn't exactly my favorite. We see Jacob has organized a field trip for the school, and it's such a simple field trip, right? We're going to the park. Organize these way for everybody to engage. We're having these activities, and they're like, listen, Jacob, sweet, but no, we're just gonna go chill at the park. They're like, we need to secure some spots for us to be at the field trip. They secured their spot, but there's this other school there, which happened to be Ava's sorority sister who she was in the panel with before, which was Tatiana Ali. Her school is there. So there's like this little rivalry and this little beef, which I was not expecting. And we haven't interacted with other students much or other classes much, right? We have hit with Mar Odom, who was over a charter school, but I love this dynamic of other teachers and other students. And at a simple and open place like the park, it was superb. Lovely. The teachers have gotten a little defensive over the students, and I just loved seeing that. There were so many moments that made me laugh. Jacob being like, here we go. At the beginning, looking at Gregory and Janine, when Gregory had picked up Janine's jacket, he's like, child, this again, but then going and encouraging Gregory to talk to Janine, then flipping over. Now, I was screaming on the bus because then he gonna tell Janine, oh, you should sit by Gregory, a little birdie told me whatever. And I'm like, Jacob, why would you tell her? But it did further along the plot, so I guess it wasn't all bad. And he was like, that was almost pornographic, and like, oh wow, you gonna like basically profess your love to her at my event. That's kind of like getting engaged at my wedding. That had me weak, because we definitely had those moments where it's like, don't be the best dressed at somebody's birthday party, or don't propose at somebody's engagement or their proposal or their wedding. Field trip is like Jacob's thing, and Gregory and Janine are having their own thing that nobody knows about, but he knows. And so he's like, you kind of are doing your thing and my thing, but I guess it's cool. Look at Janine's eyes. Have y'all peeped that like they both have bubble eyes a little bit? And so when they were like directly staring at each other, I was like, ooh, what's happening here? That one teacher from Liberty, when they were like, you know, but y'all have to teach at Abbott, and Jacob retorted and he was like, no, we get to teach at Abbott. And she was like, yeah, and I get to be lactose intolerant. I thought that was funny, especially because I'm lactose, child who isn't. Writing this episode was just 10 10 10, like all the jokes, and we're following these two stories, and then Mr. Johnson at the school. So one critique that I had last episode was that we're not keeping us outside of the school but in the school in a way that felt natural to me with the Mother's Day episode. This episode was a great example of how to do that. Follow Mr. Johnson with him having the day without the kids. They still got some comedic relief. We also are having these moments in the park and these one-on-ones with the camera crew, but it felt natural for them to be there because they're following Abbott and we're on a field trip. I think that I felt a lot better. Jokes were landing for me, like everything, which again, the Mother's Day episode was just a completely different type of episode, so they're not apples to apples. And I'm getting what I want, which is some development on this love story, okay? This whole field trip was a date for Gregory and Janine, which is just so fitting for them that of course their date would be on a field trip where they are with the kids, they're full Abbott lanyards on, okay, but they're on a field trip and doing what they love with who they admire. I won't say love, but who they cherish most, which is their kids and then each other. This episode was one of my favorites from this season for sure, like top 3 for sure. So there's one more left, and I'm wondering what I'm gonna have to say about it, but keeping this here, it's time to award our star pupil from this episode. I didn't think I was gonna give it to him, but I'm giving star pupil to Jacob, and there's a couple of reasons why. So one, this was his wedding, right? So I have to recognize the bride. With Jacob being the one who organized the field trip, you got us out at Abbott, he had this plan, but then you see him walk away from his plan and not jeopardize the experience for everybody else. He let Gregory and Janine have their moment. He let Ava be Ava, and that didn't impact him. And then once he started this war was happening, he locked in and zoned in on the relay race that they had. He had this spatial awareness, kept us central to what we're doing, but then these subplots that were happening, we got to get them. And obviously it wasn't all through Jacob's lens, but he kind of helped drive those things forward. Even saying, where's Janine and Gregory? And then Ava goes to find them. It just was like he's keeping the train moving. And I really appreciate his character for being able to do that for us in a central way, but not making it about himself completely. Now, who am I sending to the principal's office? I'm gonna say, instead of principal's office, I'm gonna report these people to the superintendent, and it's gonna be the whole Liberty School faculty system, okay? I think that they just definitely had like this rough aura. There was no camaraderie on the fact that everybody was teachers amongst each other. They looked down on the students, and the final strike for me, because everything you could kind of be like, all right, they're a little off, maybe I'm tweaking. When they moved the Abbott lunches into the sun, I was like, all right, now y'all really are just out of bounds, out of line. So all of them straight to jail, no camaraderie for me. Y'all can't come to the end of the year ball or bash because y'all just do not have no couth. I hate when people don't have no couth. Now. We have to get into Ask Janine. We got back to the school and Gregory left her, honey, and the vibe she gave off, she was angsting. It was like she wanted more, and I did too. How does she feel about Gregory present day? That's the only question. I want to know how she feels about him, and you can see it, but I need her to like walk me through their day in that experience and how she felt. Why is it different from before? What has been awakened in her mind? And even with that story from that one teacher who was going through a divorce, what feelings are still remaining and how did that impact her but also not impact her? I think that it's very important. And just when my homegirls like somebody or they're having an experience, I like to be in the nitty and the gritty. So I would love to know how she feels about Gregory, even with all things considered. So it's a little light but impactful. That's my Ask Janine for this episode. And if you would ask her something different, be sure that you drop it down below. And one day we're gonna be talking to Quincy and the team, and I would love to incorporate your questions into how we connect with the cast. I want to get into some hot takes. Y'all know every episode there's a hot take which can land you in detention or give you a hall pass. And again, this is without me watching the finale. My hot take is that Gregory should have told Janine ASAP. He should spit it out even after, I think his name is Milton, said what he said. Because when we have this feeling that things are right, today's the day, and there's this moment, there's this anticipation that's rising, things are always going to come to kill it. Things are always going to come to make you feel like it shouldn't happen, or you're off, or you didn't consider this, you didn't consider that. But I think that there's a reason why we go down the path that we go down and the timing that we go down it. And when we delay it, it actually softens the initial feelings that we had before. So for me, Gregory should have went all in that moment. I heard that the moment when he does reveal his feelings to Janine is perfect and it's sweet and all the things, but that day, that was the time in the moment. And I think an important quote that I got from him that I want to share with the class, he said, "I've been thinking so much about it going right that I didn't think about it going wrong." And I thought that that was very TED Talky of him to say, very empowering. That yeah, I was so in on like, of course it's a workout for me. Of course it's the right moment, the right time. Of course this is the right person, that I don't have to think about what would go wrong because that's not my focus. But he was saying that that was a miss on his part, is that, well, there's always something that could go wrong, and we know that Gregory's very calculated. He thinks about risk in a very meticulous way. He doesn't really like to break out of certain chains. And so when we get that text from Manny, and he's like, I'm still gonna tell Janine how I feel, then to go to that second blow of hearing about how being in a relationship with a coworker can go wrong, I get it. It seems like, all right, I'm getting enough red flags here where I need to think about something. But I can tell you from my own experience, I've had that with my creativity, with relationships that I've had. You think you need more time or another moment or another season to really sit with, all right, is this what I want to do? Really sit with, is this going to happen how I think it should happen? Really sit with all the other parameters and scenarios of what could go wrong and how it could not have the intended outcome that you want. But at the end of the day, your feelings are still there. The goal that you have is still the goal that you have. The things that you want to do is still the thing you want to do. And the other variables seem like they should matter, but they don't. They actually don't. You actually should push forward no matter what. And that's a lesson I'm actively learning right now. I think Gregory should have did it this episode, but I am looking forward to when he finally does, because I know it's gonna give me everything. Some extra credit question. If you were following somebody else at the school. So let's say it was a secretary instead of Mr. Johnson, which they're starting to give her a couple of lines. We're starting to see her character a bit more. So I actually would like to develop the secretary. There is this inner office workings that I think happens, or you go to counseling, that there's these other things that you can weave into the office culture at a school that we have not explored just yet. And so I think if we could follow anybody else or another sub story, I would have liked to see more from her than maybe Mr. Johnson in a different maybe season. I think that'd be nice to see on season 4 how we play with these other characters. Or we follow the cafeteria workers, like what is their day like since they didn't have to, I guess that would have been different because they didn't have to cook. But you know what I'm saying? Like I want to dive into these other characters and give them more of a story arc and really blow up the school even more, since we're going to be staying there. That is who I would want to follow. But who would you like to see us follow, and kind of what story would you want to see developed? I feel like we've hit into teachers in like the various ways that they have lives outside of their classrooms, right? So we've seen Jacob have a breakup. Melissa has gotten proposed to. Janine and Gregory, obviously we've seen that. Have sibling relationships, romantic relationships, career growth. The librarian come in, seeing how literacy goes and like the importance of those things. We have the charter school crossover. There are these other roles that I would like to see. The counselor for an elementary school, that would be dope to see how that character kind of comes into play. And maybe they counsel the teachers a little bit, or Ava a little bit, and give them a bit more breadth. That could be interesting. And it could be short term. Maybe it's just a project or a certain initiative, but that is something that I would like to see personally. Let me know, extra credit, what would you like to see implemented in the school, by who, and what story would you build around it? I think that's all I have for y'all with this episode. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet because I literally am turning off my camera and running to abc.com so I can tap into the season finale of Abbott Elementary. I have to see this kiss, honey. I have to see how they're gonna tie all this together, and where are we resolving, where are we leaving everything. So I appreciate everybody for tapping in. You are officially dismissed, and I'll catch you on the next episode of Abbott After School, the official, unofficial Abbott Elementary show. Bye.